This is going to be my week 14 tier list for how I think teams sort of performed this past week and also like where I project their ceiling is going to be for the rest of the season and then into the playoffs for some of them. So this is mainly going to take sort of how they've been and then how they just previously performed. This is week 14 I'm doing it, so I'm doing it on Monday night, so the Patriots and the Cardinals have not played yet. So I'm going to leave those two. I mean, I'll include them, but just keep in mind I have not done this after they played. And I'm just going to go in a row from left to right, top to bottom. And my 5 tiers are going to be Super Bowl contenders, the teams I think can win it all if the cards play out right. The playoffs, who I think will be there. Teams that are in the hunt, so they're a couple games out of the playoffs right now as it stands. Maybe next year, teams that I think have a good future ahead of them. Won't make playoffs this year, but can make some noise next year, and then definitely not next year. Won't be many teams in there. So begin with the Titans. I had them in playoffs after they got smoked by the Eagles last week, and then they just got killed by the Jags. Now, I'm gonna put them in playoffs, but this isn't because I think they're good. They're gonna win their division most likely. I think they have a 2-game lead on the Jags. And all you have to do to get into the playoffs is win their division. It's one of the worst divisions in football. So ultimately, that'll bring them into the playoffs. But I don't see them going very far. Dolphins. I mean, they just lost to the Chargers. I still want to say just because their offense, they've been elite all season. And I don't want to let recency bias come into play when talking about them. Like, they've been great all season. They've had 2 sort of rough games the last 2 weeks, but they still might not win their division. I think the Bills are leading it right now, but I still think they're a great team. The Jets, what are the Jets record? Because I don't think they're in the playoffs. They're 7-6. So they're 1 game behind the Dolphins, and they did beat the Dolphins in the first match. I'm gonna say playoffs. I mean, 7-6, 7 teams get in. I think they can make. I mean, Mike White has to get healthy. I don't think you're gonna win the rest of them with Zach Wilson. But they have a good team. They got a bright future. They have a great roster, good defense. I think they could find themselves into the playoffs. I mean, if they play well, they'll be in the playoffs. The Bengals, I'm going to say Super Bowl contender. They just played another great game. Who did they beat? No, they beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. Or last week. The Titans like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember who the Browns. But they've been playing fantastic. I mean, they made it last year, so they showed they can play in the postseason. And I think they're going to be around. The Browns, maybe next year. I mean, you got Deshaun Watson, but he was suspended for first 12 weeks of the season. He's not playing well. He hasn't played football in like 2 years, so I guess he's got an excuse for that. But, he should be better next year. The Jags, maybe next year. Let me look up. Let's see. Because I think, what do they got? 7? This is a terrible graphic. Alright, so they got five wins. Yeah, I mean, maybe next. You got Trevor Lawrence, he's your future. Doug Peterson, great coach. You'll be better next year. The Lions, they're in the hunt. I think they're not going to be favored to make the playoffs. They've won, I think, 5 of 6. Last couple of weeks, they're playing their best football at the end of the season, which is really what you want. It's sort of like the opposite of what's going on with the Giants. Like the Giants started so well, and they're playing themselves out of the playoffs, where right now the Lions are playing themselves into playoff position. I know Washington. I mean, there's only going to be one spot because I think Washington beats the Giants, and then they're going to comfortably be in the 6th spot. So it's going to be them and the Seahawks fighting for the 7th spot, but they have a chance to get in. Vikings, playoffs, they had a hot start. They're going to win their division, so ultimately make the playoffs. I'm actually going to try to put this in order best I can. But, my bad. Who was on top of the Vikings? I just don't think you're going to win many games in the playoffs with Kirk Cousins. They haven't looked good. I mean, they just lost to the Giants, or the Lions. At home, I believe it was. So I just don't see their ceiling being that high, but they're gonna make the playoffs because I think they started like 10-1, 9-1. So I mean they're gonna get in because of that. And I mean they are a good team, but I don't see them at the top. The Bucks, I mean they just got smoked by the 49ers. I mean they can't compete with the top of the class. You do have Tom Brady, but that's the only reason I would bet on them in the playoffs. They might not even make it, honestly. I mean, the Panthers, and the Falcons are all so close. I think the Panthers are down by a game, and they're playing better than them right now. So I'll keep them in the hunt just because they're close. It's just because their division's so bad. Niners, Super Bowl I honestly think they're one of the better teams. I think everybody should think that. I mean, their team is absolutely stacked. Their defense plays great, which you need some fantastic defense in the playoffs. It kind of looks like it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. They're going to win. I think they're at least going to win the first round of the playoffs. They think they end at the 3 seed, so they'll play the 6. Yeah, the 6 seed. So they'll probably play Washington. I would assume they beat them. The Falcons. What's the Falcons' record? 5. I mean, I gotta say they're in the hunt, even though they just switched quarterback to Desmond Ridder. I see them being the third in this. I see them being worse than the Bucks and the Panthers, but just statistically, they're going to be in the hunt. They're 1 game out, so I guess anything can happen. If Desmond Ridder comes out and just lights it up, then I mean they'll find themselves in for winning the division. But I don't see them winning a game. The Ravens is tough. I'm going to say in the hunt. They might be leading. I know they were leading it going into this week, I believe, over the Bengals, but I don't know how long Lamar's out. They did just beat the Steelers. Actually, I guess they got 9 wins, right? They're 9. I mean, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, it's because Lamar's out, which is why I don't see them so highly. If he's back, then really anything can happen. I mean, they're better than whatever. But I don't know. I think they're well coached. Lamar's special. He's just injured. Once again, I don't know the timetable on that, but the Ravens will be in the play. I mean, they are like a shocking 9-win team. I feel like nobody talks about them. It's a quiet 9 wins, but I mean, they'll be in the playoffs with 9 wins as long as they just don't fall apart at the end here. Chicago maybe next year. I mean, you're sort of in the same boat as the Jags. You're going to build around Justin Fields. Now, I think he's a better coach in Doug Peterson, and probably a better team. I would say the Jags would beat the Chicago Bears if they played today, but Justin Fields has been playing well. They just had a bye, so, I mean, they didn't play any. But next week they play the Eagles. That'll be tough. They'll probably lose that, but no matter how your season ends, I mean, you have to feel good going into next year that it can only get better. I mean, the quarterback's the hardest position to find. So now that if you think you got your guy, you just build around, just get him weapons. So I mean, they should have a better season next year. The Cowboys, Super Bowl contenders. They barely beat the Texans. What was it, a 98-yard drive or something to win that game. But maybe it was, if you could win on your worst days, you're a good football team. They got talent all over the field. They still have a chance to beat the Eagles for the division. I think they have 10 wins. Yeah, they're like 10-3, I think. So they're 2 games behind the Eagles. They're not in control of it, so even if they win out and if the Eagles do, obviously the Eagles will win the division. So they'll most likely be the 5 seed. And they'll end up playing the 4 seed, whoever that is, between the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Panthers. So they will probably be favored in round 1, even though they're a wild card. The Texans, I don't see a good future ahead of them, or for them ahead. I don't know. I mean, you're still figuring out the quarterback spot. You're going to have the number 1 overall pick. You're going to take Bryce Young, probably. I would do that. Assuming they're going to take Bryce Young. Even if he plays well, your roster is still not good. You're kind of where the Bears were, the Jags were like 2 years ago. Just draft Bryce Young, have him go through his rookie year, get reps in. and then build around him. So next year, not going to be contending. I doubt it. Your roster's just not good enough, but at least you're getting the first overall pick. Colts, I don't think they're a good. I don't think they should be making playoff. Yeah, no. All right, Colts next year. I think this whole failed, like where they get the old quarterback and plug him in or just plug him in, just hasn't been working for them. What has it been, like 4 years of doing that? And their draft's not. They'll have a top 10 pick, but this year for quarterbacks is kind of weak. I mean, Bryce Young will go number 1. Then I guess you can maybe get C.J. Stroud. I don't know what he's projected, but you got to figure something. Also, there's a ton of free agents. The quarterback class this year, which is what they've been doing, is getting free agents and trading for him. They haven't really drafted a guy to be their quarterback. They've drafted, I guess, like Sam Ehlinger and stuff like that, but you get somebody in free agency. That's not a statue or a cone back there. And they should be pretty decent. I mean, you play in a weak division, so they could possibly make it in the playoffs next year. The Rams, I'll say maybe. I mean, they're not making playoffs. They're terrible. They're, I think, right now like the 4th overall pick or the 3rd. They're a bad team. They did just beat the Raiders. That was probably their most impressive win of the year, the season. I mean, they're decimated by injuries. It's just not their year. They don't have many picks. I don't even think they don't have their first round pick. So I don't want to say not next year because maybe you'll get healthy. Aaron Donald back, Cooper Kupp back, Matt Stafford potentially be better, but they're not making it. The Chargers, what is the Chargers record? They just had an impressive win against the Dolphins. Yeah, they're at 7 wins. I mean, I would say, I don't know the remaining schedule, but I mean, they're playing good ball right now. They're definitely better than these two teams. So they got the same wins as the Jets. I have the Jets up there. If I had the Jets up there, I'm going to drop the Jets just down 1. I believe in Justin Herbert, which is the only reason I have them in the hunt and ahead of the Jets. They have 7 wins, win 3 of the last 4. That'll get you in. And I just trust him more than an injured Mike White and old Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson. Raiders, you're pathetic this year. I mean, I don't know how you lose to the Rams on prime. I mean, I don't know how you lose that game. Something's got to change. I would assume Derek Carr's out after this season. I mean, there's just no way they bring him back. And he's been there, 10 years? I don't think he's ever won a playoff game. But something's got to change. I mean, that just can't happen. Washington, I think they're in the hunt right now, but I think they make playoffs. If they win on Sunday night, which I think they do, they'll get into the playoffs as the 6th or at least the minimum the 7th seed. I mean, they're a good defense. They got some weapons, limited a quarterback. But I mean, they'll get in there. They're a good team. The Chiefs, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, you got Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. You're going to contend every single season, especially with Reid and Mahomes. They just barely squeaked out against the Broncos on Sunday, but I mean, they're a great team. They'll probably get the 1 seed. And home field in Arrowhead, that's tough for any team to walk into and win, so I have them in contenders. The Saints, maybe next year. I mean, they just haven't been good. Dennis Allen's first year has not been great. I mean, when your starting quarterback is Andy Dalton in 2022, you're not going to have a good football team. And they don't have their first round pick. They gave that to the Eagles, and right now that's at number 5, I believe. Saints have 4 wins. I don't know how they're going to get a quarterback. I mean, free agency class is big, so they have a chance at a quarterback this offseason, which, I mean, they're going to have to do. Giants, I have them in the hunt. They just got smoked by the Eagles, but they are statistically still. They have to beat Washington on Sunday. Sunday Night Football in Arlington. I mean, you have to win that. You just tied with them 2 weeks ago. Even if they win, it's still a 50-50 chance they get in. But they have to win that game. If they lose against Washington, they're done. And they just got embarrassed, so I expect them to play better. They should be healthier on Sunday. But so they're still in the hunt for the 7th seed. The Eagles, Super Bowl contenders. They have the best record in the NFL. They just obliterated the Giants. They're playing well. They're well coached. They have a really good roster. Everything's going well for them. They do have a big game in Dallas, so they'll play Chicago next week in Chicago. They'll be favored to win that, and then that game in Dallas, that will be for the division. So if they win in Dallas, they win the division, lock up the 1 seed, and they could rest their starters like the last 2 weeks. But they're playing good football. I mean, this will be a big game for both teams, Eagles and Dallas. It'll be a good test. I'm excited for that one. Steelers, maybe next year. I'm just going to throw you in randomly here. Potentially have your quarterback, Kenny Pickett. I'm not too high on him, but I trust Mike Tomlin. I think he's a hell of a coach. I mean, Matt Canada, offensive coordinator, play caller's got to go. I'm sure he'll be fired. The team's not that bad. I mean, your defense, your secondary seems kind of weak. I don't think you really have any great linebackers. I mean, TJ Watt will always keep you relevant on defense. And Cam Hayward. But, I mean, just build around Kenny Pickett if you believe he's the future, which he spent, what was he, the 20th pick? So, used a first rounder on him. I just build around him in the draft, and you should be better next year. I mean, it's his first year. You didn't have Super Bowl aspirations this year, so I wouldn't say it was a complete failure or a waste. I don't know. I don't know what Denver's going to do. You just paid him 5 years, $250 million, and you have about 3 wins, and you don't even have your first round pick either. So that top 5 pick, you're not going to get. They're in trouble. And with Nathaniel Hackett like that, I don't know. It just doesn't look good. I'd rather be in the Texans' position right now than the Broncos. Packers, I think statistically they're still in the hunt, but I just don't see them. Yeah, I'm going to say better look next year. I mean, Rodgers, I guess he's still got lingering injury. The Lions would beat them today, and so would the Vikings, so would Washington. It's just going to be tough for them to get in. I think next year, sit Rodgers, let Love get some playing time to see what you have. Because, I mean, you got to decide if he's your quarterback or not, because you're going to have to pay him soon. He was drafted 2020, so his contract's going to be up after next year. And, I mean, you got to just get him some reps. Panthers, I'm going to say in the hunt, and they're better than the Bucs. Shocking how well they're kind of playing recently. This would be incredible if they made the playoffs. I mean, nobody would have guessed that with how they were like mid-season. You trade away your best player. But they're playing really good football. And I know they have a bunch of division games coming up. Like, I know they play the Falcons. I don't know if they play the Saints or I think they have 3 divisional games, if I'm correct. And they could very well see themselves in the playoffs. Arizona next year. The Patriots-Cardinals game is on TV right now, and Kyler just got hurt, so their season's pretty much over. You've got like 4 wins. It was a disaster. You just paid Kyler all that money. You come back and you win 4 games. I guess you just get better I don't see how they get much better. They do not have a good roster right now. You'll have a high draft pick. But if Kyler's injury is significant, like an ACL, it's going to keep him out for the start of next season as well. So your start next year is probably not going to be great. And it's just an unfortunate season for Arizona. Bills, Super Bowl contender. I'm going to put them like right here. Josh Allen, Doug McDermott. How do I not know the coach? That's Sean McDermott. They played fantastic in the playoffs last year, so they've got experience. They're playing great football right now. They should win their division. And Buffalo's a great home field. Even if they don't win their division, they're still going to be favored in the wild card no matter who they play. And I'm expecting Chiefs, Bills, or Bengals to be in that AFC Championship game. Seahawks, they are in the hunt. I'll put them like right here. They just lost to Carolina, which hurts. I think they're 1 game out. So if the Giants lose, they'll be in. It's a cool story. I mean, Geno's playing well all season. They kind of fallen back a little bit recently. I mean, they were supposed to be a top five pick this year. I think I had them as the second worst record behind the Texans. But they played great. Pete Carroll's got to be in conversation for Coach of the Year just because of what he's done, especially with rookie. I mean, they got rookies balling on both sides of the field. I mean, they're playing good football for what they have, for what the roster is. The Patriots, I think they're still in the hunt, but I don't see it going too well for them to end the year. I mean, I just don't see the Patriots getting it. I'm gonna put them maybe next year. Your team just isn't that great. I mean, it just seems that the Patriots are really average. They don't really have a threat on offense. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson's their best offensive player. I mean, you got to get Max some help, and I think you got to get a new play caller. I think Matt Patricia's doing it right now, and it's just not working. I mean, get an offensive coordinator. Bill, I still have faith in him that he'll have a good defense year in and year out, and that'll help Mac Jones. But I don't know. I mean, they got to strengthen the roster. And once again, this game is still going on between the Cardinals and Patriots, so I haven't watched, or I have it on to the side, but so this game's not over, but I don't see either of them making a push for the playoffs, so they're not really relevant, in my opinion. So those are my Week 14 tier list for this season so far, and where I think the teams will end up. And thanks for watching.